my goodness. Okay. Pop in, say hi. If you've never come into one of my lives before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And I thought I was ready. Went to hit that live button and I recognized my tea was still sitting on the kitchen counter, not ready to go. That I hadn't plugged in my computer properly, so I had to fix that. And then just noticed that my light wasn't on. And I should open up this. Oh, maybe not yet. It's still pretty light outside. You guys pop in, say hi. Hello, Tammy. How's your day been going so far today? How's the heat? Oh my goodness, if it's anything like Manitoba, you know, past few weeks we've been listening to Europe, moaning about that hot weather being in the 30s. And we get that 30-degree weather all the time here in Manitoba. But we do have that privilege of having air conditioners. They don't do a lot in the way of air conditioners because I was actually talking to somebody on the elevator today and he explained it to me that most of their buildings are great big cinder blocks or sandstone. And so that stone keeps the buildings cool in the summer and warm in the winter, but there's a lot of humidity and mold when you have those kind of buildings, when you're living in those kind of buildings. But I found it interesting. And then today, because I promised myself, and when I give those words to myself, it's important for me to hold up to that word. Right? We let people down on occasion, don't we? It's not our intent to let people down, but we do. But for some reason, right, I prioritize that word to myself. And you would think it would be the opposite way around, where you would prioritize, that promise to somebody else. I try to do that too, but again, we fail people all the time. And so rarely do I fail myself when I do give my word to myself. I don't know. Maybe it's in that idea that I beat myself up lots in not keeping my word to myself. I don't know. I think I probably do. But in giving my word to myself, uh, it's a way for me to be consistent. It's a way for me to show up. It's a way for me to be that person that I want to be, right? And for most part of my life, I failed myself in my word, failed myself in my procrastination of coming in live or getting to work right on the dot rather than 5 or 10 minutes early, in that hesitancy. I actually was watching a post of somebody. I've recently subscribed to his content because he's very inspirational and his insights are so amazing, like so bang on. Off the top of my head, I apologize. I can't remember his name. I'm sure I could find him on my phone. Maybe I'll go through that process to see if I can find him. I'll just as I'm talking to you guys. But here, oh, he's the first one on my phone. What a coincidence. Diddy Can Transformation. Have you guys ever heard of this gentleman? I'm just going to make sure I got it right. Yeah. Diddy Can Transformation. And he was talking about procrastination yesterday. Was it yesterday? Maybe the day before. He was talking about procrastination. And I never thought of it that way, in that procrastination, because it's something that I really, in keeping that word to myself, in showing up when I say I'm going to show up, in being consistent and not just fluffing it off and say, it's okay, I don't have to do it today. That because I give myself that word, I have to hold myself accountable in that. And he put a post out that it said, that we do beat ourselves up a lot for procrastinating. For me, I always felt guilty and shameful in procrastinating. Like I say, get get to work right on the skin of my teeth, or 5 minutes after, or coming into my lives 5 or 10 minutes after the time that I specified that I was going to be here, right? And then just flub over myself with the excuses. And it's something, that I've really been working on in the past year. And I've been doing so much better. Accidents still happen, but I'm not, that's an accident. It's not me fighting myself, having that tug of war, having that, okay, Cindy, hit the button, right? I'm not doing that anymore. It's time to go on. I'm here. I'm ready to go. Let's do this. And here I am. But he was explaining it really interesting, because I never looked at it that way. That procrastination comes from our hypervigilance when we were kids, in always checking out and always being afraid and always looking out for our own safety, that it would quite often make us be hesitant, right? In stepping forward, in coming to the forefront, in being on time. And it kind of blew my mind, because I had never looked at it that way, that it was a safety trait, it was a cautionary trait, procrastination. And it helped me out so much that I decided this week on my Instagram that I would write about it, right? About procrastination. And then I also said, well, I was actually going to make a video, but we'll get into that in a minute. But then I thought also this week, in my What's My Good Cheer, my podcast, that I would also make it a topic of discussion, right? Procrastination. And because it's something that I have struggled with, I have struggled with my entire life. Like, right? How many times I've been tardy? How many times I just say, I don't want to go to I don't want to go to school today. I always made it to work. I didn't want to get yelled at work, but going to school, right? Lots of times I wouldn't go to school, and I never took this into consideration until I'm talking about it right now, that lots of times I would skip school all the time. But if I look at it, that I was protecting myself, it wasn't my hypervigilance. It just totally makes sense. Like, it totally makes sense to me, because I was always hesitant in going to school, because I never knew what the day was going to divvy out to me. It was going to divvy out something. That was always a guarantee. But what it was, I didn't know. And, school and high school, oh my goodness, I skipped so much of high school. My last 2 years of high school, probably half my classes I skipped. I spent most of that time in the library, right? Or maybe I would hop a bus and go down to the beach and spend the day down at the beach. I was pretty bad, but I get it now. I really get it. in looking out for my safety that I was procrastinating. It makes so much sense. Okay, let me come into the comments, see who's here. Tammy's here. Hello, Cindy. Okay, I just have 2 days of severe chronic migraines. Oh, I'm sorry. Take it easy. You don't, right? Why don't you just lay on the couch and just listen to the lives? I know my voice, right? I know my voice can be like chalk on a chalkboard, especially if somebody's got a headache and not feeling good. And if you're not feeling good, Tammy, right? Stay out of the picture tonight. And right, I would like you to stay out of the picture tonight. Just lay on the couch. You want to hang out with us, but I would feel bad if you contributed like you usually do and you're not feeling good, right? The hot weather, migraines. Oh, you suffer from migraines too. Oh my goodness. Chronic migraines. So migraine headaches all the time. Tammy, I wish you would tell me these things. I don't recall you ever telling me that you suffered with migraine headaches too, right? I would have sent you some good cheer. I'm sending you some good cheer, Tammy. And Andrew's gonna throw you a little prayer, right? My good cheer is out there. And when I'm talking to myself, today I made what was that? An effort to have a conversation with myself as I'm cleaning the house, right? We're getting close to September. I'm a little bit anxious in that. And I wanted some signs and some heads up. So I just was asking those questions. Just give me a heads up because I'm good, right? If I need to go back to work, I'd like to know now so I could get a few paychecks in to help pay for my trip in September. But then also I understand, life divvies out what life divvies out. It is in that adapt and conquer it, riding the waves of the chronic migraines and stuff that, it shows our strength, it shows our resilience. We probably would prefer not to have them, right? But if we do have to ride those waves, then we have to ride those waves. If we have to endure the migraines and if we have to accept that, things aren't going to work out the way that you want them to work out, you see how I smile in that, eh? That's because of the belief that's in my system now. Right? And it's a good thing because it hasn't failed me, but that doesn't mean that it's always not going to fail me. It's not going to always trip me up. When I first went to the doctor a few weeks ago, I says, "Oh, Cindy, right? I've been checking my blood pressure when I go to the grocery store, to the drugstore, right? And my blood pressure is in that where it says if it's above this number, it's high." And I went, "Oh my goodness, I got high blood pressure." Right? But then I'm thinking, I'm going to be 65 years old this year. Grateful that I don't take any medication. Like I take my vitamins, right? And I take antacids because I get heartburn. But grateful because I could be taking medication for my migraines. I could be taking aspirins and right and really, you know, not taking care of myself, which I wasn't because I could have caught it sooner. But I'm grateful I caught it when I did because, oh my goodness, she's been putting me through the hoops. All those blood tests and the blood tests came back except for my iron levels, and she gave me some iron pills for that. Now she wants to send me for a colonoscopy. Yeah, so And my sister says, "Oh, I had one of those," and she told me all about it. I went, "No, I don't want to have. I don't want to have one of those, right?" But I'm going to do what I have to do because she caught the iron going down, which I so appreciate because taking those iron pills, even though they're a little bit hard on the stomach, uh, they've been benefiting me. I know that I might have caused myself some issues in neglecting myself in my iron. And I just got the results back. She sent me for a mammogram. So I had a mammogram and that turned out good. All my blood work was good. So we're just going to do, she has two more tests that she wants to do on me, the personal ones, right? But then she'll have everything. And so far, so good. But she wants to see how these iron pills do for me because it could benefit and um, make it so uh, it's what was causing my blood pressure to go up. So she doesn't want to put me on blood pressure pills unless I really need the blood pressure pills. And I appreciate a doctor like that, not to just write out those prescriptions without knowing for sure. I have no problems taking those blood pressure pills if that's what I need. I mean, right? It runs in the family, and all my sisters are on blood pressure pills. Like, what makes me superwoman? My mentality. That's what. And, I have to remember I'm only human, right? And, it's about taking care of ourselves the best way that we can. And, that following that intuition. And yes, I procrastinated because I knew for a couple of months that I should go find a doctor. You guys here heard me, right? That I was right. And I never did it, right? There's a 2 or 3 months later, finally, I'm going for a walk and just hit me, and I work with what comes across my path, and I happen to be um, walking along the street in a building that just got built with a brand new doctor's office in there, and I says, "Okay," and it said "Walk-ins welcome," so I just wanted to see if they would take um, a new patient in, right? If that because I don't want to just be going to walk-in clinics whenever I'm not feeling good. I would like to know, right? Somebody who's keeping track of my health as I'm maturing and giving me advice on what to do when my energy is low or if I have issues that they're going to catch it right away. Yeah, it was just like a little miracle. And I just walked in there and he said, "Fill out this form." She says, "What doctor do you want?" And he named off these doctors, and one of the doctor had an East Indian name, and it's no prejudice in that. But I had that comfortable ability with my last family doctor who I had for like 30 years until he retired, and he was East Indian, and he was absolutely amazing, and he really made me feel like I mattered, and that was important to me. And some of those big changes that I made under his watch, right? So when they mentioned this other doctor, I said, "Oh my goodness, that's my doctor. That's the one I want to see." Right? And I says, "I'm just looking, to get a family doctor. I'd like to make an appointment." He said, "Fill out this form," and I filled out the form and I gave all the information. And he says, "Oh, do you have time now to see a doctor?" I went, "Oh my goodness, already? Yes, please." And then within 5 minutes, I got in to see my new family doctor, and she was absolutely amazing. And she, like I said, she's put me through the ringer of absolutely everything, but she wants to know exactly where I stand as I'm right, starting off as a new patient of hers so she can keep good track of me. I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay. Um, but I hope your headaches feel better, Tammy, really soon. I right. I love the crazy weather, but I know when that heat and the humidity get together, that could be stifling. I went for a walk today. It was a fairly long walk. I had this idea I was going to take my camera gear and I was going to make a little video on procrastination. Like I said, I wanted to do this topic this week on procrastination. And I got I got to the little library and I went through all the books and I dropped off some books, right? Some of my big old ancient history books, like coffee table books that I've had for decades, but they're just sitting there and they're beautiful books. And if somebody wanted to put it on a coffee table or to go through it, and we know history because the evidence is always changing, that it has changed. And a lot of those ancient history books are not as relevant today, right? Or aren't, yeah, those books aren't as relevant today because that information has all been updated and changed, right? But they were beautiful, beautiful books. Lots of great stories, lots of Babylonian and Sumerian and Turkey and Egypt. It was just, right, a really beautiful books. And I dropped them off, and then I had my granny wagon with me, so I loaded it up with a few more books, and the the bookcase, like it's not even a bookcase, it's a little library. It's made out of plexiglass. It's about the size of a bedroom, and then along the walls they have bookcases, but they were just stacked full, right? I guess because of, is it the end of the month? Yeah, because it was the end of the month, people moving, they dropped off all those books for the library. And I walked by there the other day, but there were like three people in there, and it's like the size of a bedroom. So I didn't want to interrupt people in there as they're looking for books. And there's a little bench outside. So I sat at the bench and I thought, well, I'll wait for them to do what they're doing and get the books they wanted. And I sat there and I relaxed and everything. But as I was relaxing, more people were going into the little library to go through the books. And there were books all over the floor, like people just dumped boxes of books. So it's all over the floor. I went today and somebody had picked up all those books and, right, put them in the bookcase really nicely. So I stood there. I had the library to myself and I stood there. And one of the books I grabbed was this one called The 12. And oh, I said, oh, that looks really good, right? It's kind of like um, Legends, that book, that movie with Will Smith, like the introduction looked like that. And I says, oh, that looks really good. And then I started reading it when I got to the park. I sat on the bench and I was going to make a video. There were people sitting out having picnics. It was hard to find a bench because all the benches were full. People were sitting along the river. It was a piece of land that was actually a big property. It had a big mansion on it. And the owner of the mansion tore down the house and donated the land to the city, and the city turned it into a little city park. And it's got trails along the river. It's absolutely just a beaut. Tons of trees and, right. Oh, it's just gorgeous. And so I finally found my bench, and then I set my camera up and everything, and I just kind of went blank. And I said, you know what? No. And it wasn't a procrastination thing. I just said, no, I don't want to make a video right here. Yeah, and so I pulled out this book and I sat there for, oh my goodness, over an hour after my long walk. It was nice to sit on the bench. Sat there for at least an hour reading this book, but then all the names in the book were recognizable to me. And so I looked at the cover again and I went, oh my goodness, this is a trilogy. This is the second part of the story of the passage. And it says right there, the passage. I didn't recognize the name, right? But this is the second story of the book, The Passage. And I read that book. It was a great book. I really, really enjoyed the book. And I was totally amazed. So I got immersed in the book. I read like three chapters, and then the prelude and stuff to it, and the character building. And yeah, it's going to be a good book. So tomorrow I'm going to set some time. Tomorrow's going to be a rainy day. I'm going to stay in tomorrow because I got my walk in. Let me have a sip of my drink. Strawberry. Um, I'm going to stay in tomorrow because tomorrow's going to be a rainy day. I didn't check to see what the humidity is going to be like, though, Tammy. Oh my goodness. Let me just check that too. The temperature tomorrow. Oh, it's going to be hot tomorrow, you guys. Yeah, it's going to be hot, almost in the 30s again tomorrow. But with that rain, it's going to be really humid. But I've got my place locked up. When I say everything's shut down and I got my air conditioner, I can just sit here and relax in my air conditioning, right? And just have a nice day with my book and my cup of tea, right? Okay. But I really do hope you're feeling. Wow, 70, 80 miles an hour winds. Holy moly. It was really windy here today. Probably not more than 60. Oh, that's miles. We're kilometers here in Manitoba. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, so 70, 80 miles per hour. That is strong wind and power outages. So you got, well, obviously you got your power because you're hanging out with us tonight. Hello, Andrew. How's Andrew tonight? City Cam is new to me. Uh, to look to see how the weather is. That's what you're saying, Andrew. Like others, we have had very hot weather to 95 and 99 and over 100 degrees, right? Especially for northern United States to get that high so early in the summer season. Like that's something you get like closer to the end of July. That's how high you should be getting. And that humidity too, especially in being cottage country, Tammy, mosquitoes must be pretty high too. Mosquito counts. I got my first mosquito bite today. Very surprised. Bugs don't normally like me. So I noticed when I came home after my walk today that I was scratching my knee, and then I went, "Oh, I got a mosquito bite." With proud, like I was with pride that I got a mosquito, all excited, right? Most people do not like getting bit by the mosquitoes. Um, oh, William's here too. Um, Andrew says, I'm hearing you, Cindy. I'm going to go ahead with knee replacement with cortisone shots prior to surgery. Hopefully, the shots will bring some relief, though temporary. And you've got a date already for that? Andrew? Did you tell the receptionist that you wanted to go on a cancellation list? Right? Because the sooner you can get that done, the less you're going to mentally be messed up over it, right? Nobody likes surgery. Nobody likes going into the hospital. But so the sooner that you can get that done, the sooner you can get into your physio and get back up and running. Literally, Andrew. Wouldn't that be absolutely amazing if you could be back on your bike and go for walks and stuff? Oh my goodness. Sending you so much good cheer on that one. I really, really am. I'm really excited. Are you having the knee replacements, both knees done at the same time, or are you going to have them done separately? Did the doctor let you know what he was going to do on that? Um, yeah. Hello, Owen. It's nice to see William. Happy to be home, William? Are you happy to be home? Do you have any more conventions or traveling to do this summer? Hi, Kathy. Right? Like, oh my goodness. I know it's scary, Andrew. I know it's not something that you're looking forward to, but I'm excited for you. Anybody who's gone through that operation but appreciated the pain that they had prior to that operation, right? They're going to be excited for you to get that done. It's going to be such a relief. It's going to give you your mobility back just to get the pain out of your life, right? I understand the hip is an issue, but maybe once you're walking properly, that will ease some of the discomfort in the hip too. Um, Interesting timing, Cindy. Today I started reading a big book about Edwardian country homes. Uh, I've had the book for many years and today finally started reading it. Oh, my history books, I read them over and over and over again. I just love the history, right? I didn't have any architecture books. Oh, I do have one architectural book. That was just in my case. I was just in my case today, so I know exactly what is. This one, you guys, tree houses, right? They're plans and all different types of tree houses that people have made. Look at that one. That's really kind of cool. This one here, three levels of a tree house. Yeah, and it shows you how to make good bases and stuff. But that's the only architectural book I think that I have, besides my clippings from the MLS newspaper that they put out every month about different pieces of property that they've got for sale. And if I see a good one, I'll snip it out, right? And I tape it to the side of my computer so I can stare at it. Like these ones have been up there for a couple of months, right? But here, let me pull. This is my favorite. If I was looking from some unorganized land, I don't know if you guys will probably be able to see this one. Can you see it properly? This is kind of like my dream property, right? It's like a little house in somebody's farm field surrounded by a forest. And then I thought, it's out in the countryside. It'd be nicer if it was mountains and a lake close by too. But this idea of having a little house on somebody's farmland, it was probably the family home, but because they have a home somewhere else, they don't want it to go away, so they want to sell it, right? And the price of this house was fairly inexpensive. $49,000, you guys. Like, that's super, super cheap. But then I thought a little forest all the way around the property that I could use. What do you call that brown woody stuff? Um, it's not on the top of my tongue, but to make a trail through the forest, and then I could have deer come on my property, and in the morning I could make myself a cup of coffee and go for a walk in my own forest around my property. But right, other than that, my only architectural book is my treehouse book. But I keep those taped on my monitor so I can stare at them and manifest them, right? I made a contract for myself that's taped there. And then on the side of my file cabinet here, I have a list of also affirmations, but they're kindnesses that I want to do as a philanthropist, those thank yous that you want to divvy out for the kindnesses of others. And yeah, I've got quite a few. I've got quite a few on that list, right? But yeah, I got these notes and lists all over the place, right? Yeah. And then, of course, I've got notes in my lessons. I got different books all over the place on this. Another topic that I was looking at wanting to do this week, if you guys have any good suggestions, you could throw it in the comments here. Just throw the name. And even if I don't, well, I'm fairly down. I'm caught up with the comments pretty good here. But if you want to throw any ideas on topics for catalysts. And this is a season. Like when I say it's a season, it's the time in this day and age that there are so many catalysts out in the world, right? In that idea, you've got to make a mess to clean a mess, right? So these are people out there stirring the pot, right? People who are out there and making a big difference in the world, or people who are being creative and creating things that will make the world better, right? That will help us in our movement forward. So I was making a list of different catalysts, and some of them are good catalysts, some of them are really bad catalysts, and some of them aren't even people. So some of the catalysts I came up with, so you have an idea, because you guys can probably think of some good ones too. I'm not going to include all of them. I might grab maybe 10 of them to talk about when I do my live, right? But some of the ones that I had was Jesus, right? He was a catalyst. Look at the impact that he made in the world. He really stirred the pot, didn't he? In a pretty cool way, if you ask me. Jesus. Piscus Sophia. Tony Robbins. If you don't know who Tony Robbins is, he's an entrepreneur. He helps people to be their own bosses, start their own business, become millionaires and stuff. But the thing is, you think, well, how is he a catalyst? But he's a catalyst in a way that there's so many rich, powerful people out in the world with yachts supporting organizations that are not good organizations, like buying them weapons and stuff so they can go to war, right? But we're talking about people who are sending medicine to other countries or sending food to other countries, and also getting the people, because he's a mindset coach too. He's just not an entrepreneur. He's teaching people how to be millionaires and gazillionaires so that they can do good things in the world. And I think that's a catalyst. I really do, because we need more people out there helping people to be on the right side, right? And not on the wrong side, not being greedy with their money, right? I'm not saying Elon Musk is greedy, but I watched a post that said that Elon Musk could give $1 billion to every single person on this planet. Can you imagine what you could do with $1 billion? Right? I guess the market would crash pretty bad, wouldn't it? If he gave $1 billion to everybody. But can you imagine the work that those lawyers would have to do to make sure everybody got their $1 billion, right? Martin Luther King, he was a great catalyst too, wasn't he? Because he got us in that frame of mind where we could start working on where we were getting things wrong when it comes to racism, right? And bringing it more to that idea of it takes all kinds to make the world. And look at where we're at right now, doing so good. Here's one of those ones that's not a human. Google, that's a catalyst. That one sure stirred the pot, especially for me. I think, especially for lots of people, because none of this would be going on right now without Google, would it? It's a very large community that is also out there and using those resources to do pretty amazing things in the world. Here's another one that isn't a person. What happened in Chernobyl, right? With that nuclear plant, that it had given us a wake up call in how to take care of this world to make sure that we don't get ourselves in that situation ever again. It's that idea of learning from our mistakes and learning from our failures, that we really did need that wake up call. Here's a bad one, you guys. Hitler, right? That was a catalyst. But I also think in the idea that we came together as a world, because most people agree that that was pretty that was pretty messed up. Was it necessary? I'm not the one to say in that. But it also gave us a wake up call of where we don't ever want to be again. And, we haven't had a world war, right? Since that. And is it possible that World War III didn't happen specifically because we all have this clear picture of the mess that happened when it came to Hitler, right? So I put him on the list. Donald Trump, he made the list, right? If there's anybody out there who's a catalyst, stirring the pot, creating change that, we still don't have the answers whether it's going to be beneficial or negative, because he does quite a bit of both, doesn't he? El Nino, there's a catalyst, right? El Nino with this weather, right? And I hope it clears up for you, Tammy, so that, right? That, if it's happening this early, that means 2 months. I hope you have good air conditioning, girl. Um, oh, here's another catalyst. Osama Obama, right? Like, he was a huge catalyst that he changed our understanding of safety, right? When those two planes hit into the twin towers, that it gave us a wake up call, and we went into self protective mode. And also all those lives and all those families that got impacted by that experience, whether they were somebody that got hurt by it, or they were a member of the family, or if they were standing out on the street, like that changed our way of thinking in a way. Like that for sure was a catalyst. And then I put down Alexander Graham Bell, right? Who invented the telephone, the telegraph, right? The light bulb, right? These incredible inventors. Like if you guys can add on to that list, I also had um, Steve Jobs, because right, we got computers now, you guys. Right, we got computers now. Now Napoleon, I don't know why. I wanted to do the research on why I put Napoleon down, but I got his name down there. I'm going to have to do more research. I thought I knew a lot about him, but in being a catalyst, I mean, yeah, he was he was a warrior. He was a genius, and he was an instigator. But was he a hero? Did he impact the world so much that the world would not be the same today if he hadn't done what he had done? I don't know. I'm going to have to do some research on it. I put the name down for a reason. I have no idea what that reason is, but I'll do my research before I decide, what examples of catalysts I wanna use when I have my conversation. And then give myself a little bit of time so that I can uh, make a good post on it. And I think I'll use it in my podcast, right? When I went to the park today, I was actually going to talk about procrastination, but that it was a definite, for sure, loud and clear no. Not a few more minutes in it. It was none of that. It was just nah. And I took all my gear with me. I took my wireless microphone, my tripod, my monopod. I took all my attachments with me, and right. And I had already made all my notes sitting here today on what I want to talk about when it came to procrastination. And when I got there, it was just a no. It was just a sit on the bench, relax, watch everybody out on the grounds, going for their walks, walking their dogs. And the beautiful thing about that walk today and doing this walk, because the neighborhood is very wealthy neighborhood, right? Lots of people like to go for walks and jogs and take their dogs out and stuff in this neighborhood because it's such a beautiful neighborhood. Like big mansions and big houses and beautiful trees and gardens. It's just absolutely lovely. But one thing I noticed today when I went for my walk, everybody who walked past me gave me hello. And for about the first few blocks, they were giving me the hellos first. And then after that, I said, no way, I'm just going to say hi to everybody that I passed. And that was something that I really loved to do when I was a kid. We were brought up to say hello or good day or good morning to anybody that we crossed on the sidewalk. And it's a lost, I'd have to say, lost art, isn't it? Because it was something that was truly beautiful. And again, we're so holed up into ourselves, and we're so hyper vigilant in our safety, or who's going to think we're cuckoo or something, that these are things that we've kind of lost, right? Kind of like after COVID happened, and we used to greet people with handshaking. We don't shake hands anymore, do we? It's kind of a germy thing to do, right? Very rarely are people out there shaking hands anymore. Sometimes people forget. that what the early 20s brought to us, but it's not relevant like it used to be relevant. Whoa, I thought I knocked my juice over. Let's have a sip of my tea and I'll come down in the comments. No date yet for the surgery. Well, I'm really happy for you. Um, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna send you a card. I'm gonna do that this week, Friday. I'll send it out on Friday. Yeah, I'll send it out on Friday. I won't forget. Uh, I saw Howard Stern interviewing Barbara Streisand. They talked about how she's not as rich as people think. Howard said, "You don't have $1 billion." Barbara said, "I wish I did." She was pretty famous, but she came right at the end where, movie stars were still under contract, right? They were still under contract and they weren't setting their sights on contracting, uh, building their contract so they could make gazillions of dollars like some of these actresses do nowadays, right? I think she was almost out of the picture scene by, oh, I would have to say the late 80s, right? Like she did a couple of movies in the late 80s, but I don't think she's Barbara Streisand has done anything recently either that would command that kind of money. It's unfortunate because she worked hard and she brought smiles to a lot of faces. Barbara Streisand, I had every single one of her records, her albums, and I had her cassettes, and I had her CDs, and some of them I even had at the same time over the course of the years. I really loved Barbara Streisand. I could sing all of her songs. Not even close to being as good as her, but I loved her songs. I really did. And her musical, right? She had some really, really great. Oh no, she has done a movie recently, right? Hocus Pocus 2, she did. And that was a good movie. That was a good movie. Well, I never saw the second one, but I saw the first one, and I've seen the music video for the second one many, many, many times. It was really, really good. And I heard she did another one for Netflix. Oh no, Disney Channel. Right? Oh, that's why I never saw the second one because the second movie she did, yeah, for Disney Channel. So unless you had the Disney Channel, you weren't going to be able to see it. And I don't have TV. I've never watched anything on Netflix. My sister almost enticed me the other day because my nephew has a new movie. He's a member of some kind of movie club, and he's got his hands on the new Ice Age already, and it's not being released until February, but he's got it, and I really want to watch it. But you know what? That's going to be a movie for Christmas. That'll be my Christmas movie in February, right? So I want to go to the theaters to see that one. The Ice Age movies are my favorite movies of all time. And I haven't seen a new one in years, so I'm looking forward to that one. But that's interesting, Andrew. I never heard about the that Barbara Streisand was not rich, especially when she was married to a famous movie star too, right? Who is what's the name of the guy from what was that Medical MD? Oh, I can't remember the name of the television show. Marcus Welby, MD. He was in that, right? She married his assistant in that television show. I can't remember his name. I'm sure Andrew knows his name. Um, Cindy, you have a good list of names for Catalyst. Do you think so? I'm not keeping them all. I think I'll take the most relevant ones and I'll take them off the list And then I want to mix because just because somebody's a catalyst, it doesn't mean a catalyst in a good way, right? It could be a catalyst or a catalyst in a bad way. It could be a catalyst in a good way that could have, done something in the world that was absolutely like Martin Luther King. Like he changed the way we thought. He changed our state of tolerance. Oh, what about Abe Lincoln? Does he? I'm gonna put him on the list. I'm putting old Abe on the list, I think, and I'll do some research, and I think I'll pick up like 10 of the very best catalysts that I could come up with. I mean, I guess I could Google it, right? But I should be putting that work in first. Choose by what I'm inspired to choose by, and then do the research on it rather than letting the right Gemini pick them for me. Um, Listen, I will definitely listen to your live chat. Oh, yeah, but then you'll be hearing it for a second time because I talked about it now. But I will be more thorough because I will have done my research. I will have tied the list down a little bit more. Uh, James Brolin, thank you, Tammy. I think Abraham Lincoln is a good one, right? He got us out of the Civil War. That was, people don't look at the terribleness of the Civil War. When I think of the Civil War, I think it's one of the saddest wars of ever, right? Because that pitted families against each other, right? It was the North and the South, and lots of families just split up and just crossed that line and made it so they were, right, one of the Southerners, or they moved up north and became one of the Northerners, right? And it's so sad when you pit family against each other. It's just right. What if you had to meet that? And I'm sure it happened. What did you have to meet your brother on the firing line, right? In warring with each other. That would be, and then how do you live with that after the war is over? And how do the relationships survive in that? Right? They didn't get a choice whether or not they got to fight. They were in the draft. They would get pulled right out of their homes or right out of the farm field and say, "Off you go. You're going to war." Right? Yeah, that was a terrible one. That was a terrible one. But yeah, I Abraham Lincoln. I think he believes he belongs on that one. And I spelt his name wrong. I don't want to be. I don't want to be doing that one wrong for sure. But yeah, I'll do some research. I don't have to have this as one of the very first one of the week. I can maybe do it on Wednesday or Thursday. I have a pretty busy week this week. I like being busy, and it's important, that I'm doing different things and adding different things into my life. And some of it is exciting and some of it's not, like a colonoscopy. Oh my goodness. I'm not looking forward to that one. But I tell you, I got two more tests done and we're done. And I will keep myself healthy and I will do whatever she tells me to do to make sure that I stay that way, right? And if right something happens, something happens, I will ride those waves. I will adapt and conquer, and I will think of Tammy and Andrew, right, being the warriors of their own health and how they trooped through it, and I will do the exact same. right? We are the examples to each other. We're the evidence to each other that it can be done, right? Yeah. Okay. Abraham Lincoln's wife, Mary, was from a Southern family on the side of the Confederate. I never knew that. I never knew that. Like, what a terrible war that was. Oh, Andrew said that one. Wow. I didn't know that tidbit at all. So that would make it so Abraham Lincoln really had some difficult decisions to make during the war. That was a long war too. That what was it? 7 years. That war was 7 years. I can't remember how long it was. Can you let me know? I know one of you guys know how long that war lasted. Yeah, yeah, and that, and there was such a hoopla about the Confederate flag, right? And it wasn't like a Civil War thing. My husband had all kinds of Confederate flags, and he had Yosemite Sam tattooed all over his arms. Like, my husband did not have a prejudiced bone in his body, and yet the military had to send him on his way, scoot him out of the army because it was part of cleaning up the what they represented in the military and the idea of racism, right? And that was unfortunate, but times do change. But yeah, it was kind of bad, you know. It's kind of difficult decision to do that because people, it's like saying, okay, no 4th of July. Right? Like, how difficult would that be? That'd be super difficult. There was something else that came to mind in that. Oh, when they decided to take the Lord's Prayer out of school. I remember, when I was a kid, that before we started class, our first class, we always said the Lord's Prayer. But I appreciate that one, right? It's still sad, it's still a difficult decision, but in the consideration that we were trying to overcome our prejudice and those racial beliefs, that it was probably necessary, right? Because, you know, I know I'm from Vancouver, and there were lots of people who practiced the Buddhist religion. There was like lots of Asians in Vancouver, right? And for them to sit in class, I mean, there were more Asians than Caucasians, to tell you the truth, in Vancouver, right? That in school, it wasn't fair to make them stand up and say the Lord's Prayer, if right, if it wasn't part of their religious beliefs, right? um Hello, Eugene. There's a young reader's novel about the Civil War across 5 Aprils, the time span of the war. So maybe 6 years then. 6 years, the Civil War. Yeah, that was a sad one. Yeah. I don't know why, being a Canadian, there your heart goes out to another country, right? And to think, oh, here's another one, when they split Germany to the east and the west, right? During the Second World War. And there were families on both sides of the wall, and people would get shot, you know, in just trying to go visit a mother or a father on the other side. Yeah, like catalysts, I believe they are needed. I am a believer, you gotta make a mess to clean a mess. And catalysts, you know I feel bad sometimes for Donald Trump. I do, right? Because He is a catalyst, but he's a scapegoat too, right? How many people say amazing things about Donald Trump? And he's in it. He's doing that Middle Eastern war thing. Like, fine, I'll do it by myself, right? And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like that's a lot of pressure. And people are talking about his health not being bad. No wonder nobody's got his back, right? I feel bad for him. And who's to say? I'm not saying it's a good thing what he's doing, right? I'm not in politics or anything, but I could see a scapegoat when I see one, and he is definitely a scapegoat. Sometimes when you make somebody a scapegoat, they toughen up, right? They go, fine, you don't like me? I'll just go do whatever I want, right? And they become narcissistic and demanding and self centered in their ideas. Yeah, I still feel bad for him though. Uh, One of my ancestors died in Andersonville camp during the Civil War. Wow. I watch Antiques Roadshow, and some of the most valuable things are items that they made in these prisoner of war camps, right? These bones that they would carve into, or they get a little piece of wood and they would carve things into it, and they make jewelry boxes and stuff. And when you watch Antiques Roadshow, this stuff goes for tons of money. Like even like the old uniforms, and sometimes the hats and things come in line, and the sabers and the guns. Yeah, but it was pretty beautiful, wasn't it, in the end, that that the black community joined in the Civil War. It was, when you talk about catalysts, that was a good thing, right? Because they were saying we're American too, right? Our skin might be different, but we're American too. We live here too. We love this country, and we're going to fight for this country too. And that was something that really we needed, right? That these are the things that get the balls rolling when we're not making those decisions, because we're all comfy, right? We like things. We don't like to stir the pot. Donald Trump does. But we normally don't like to stir the pot. We like things nice and non confrontational. We like that couch and the remote control. We like not to have to see the doctors and the surgeons, right? No news is good news, but there's no movement in that. And the whole idea is us to get our butts in gear, right? And be stewards of this world and be caregivers for each other. Kind of grateful that I got so many caregivers on this channel with me. I have no idea how I scooped up the caregivers, right? But I'm grateful, right? Because that's where the hearts are. And yeah, if something were ever to go wrong, I know you guys would have some good advice for me, right? Um, yeah, when it was divided. I love the PBS Antique Roadshow. I love the antiques, but I really love the stories and the history too. Right? Who cares about the items? Right? It would be nice to have a Fabergé egg. I love the Fabergé egg stories, right? Because there's like 16 Fabergé eggs that are still missing. And then one guy who went to a garage sale somewheres in the States, and he picked up a Fabergé egg, and I think he paid like $50 for it or something like that. And it turned out to be, when it went for auctions, it went for like $1 million or something, right? Um, Jackie Oasis' daughter. What was her name? Well, it wasn't her daughter. It was her second husband's daughter. But she's got Fabergé eggs. She's got some of the Fabergé eggs. But her dad was one of the most richest people in the entire world, right? Harriet Tubman. Okay, I have never heard of her. Tammy, tell us who she is. I'm writing her name down right now. Tell us who she is. I won't be able to wait for research on that one. Harriet Tubman. Yeah, who is she? Right? Like there are some really, really great women out there who led the world. Like one of my absolute favorites is I really liked Franklin Roosevelt's wife, Eleanor. She's one of my heroes. She really cared about what she was doing. She's the one who helped her husband to win the election, and she supported women's rights. She was somebody who went to bat for low income families, right? At the end of her career, at the end of her life, she says, she wanted to come back and not have anything, because when she grew up, she was rich, right? She was old money, and she had lots of money, and she inherited lots of money from her family, and she never knew poverty in her entire life. But because she worked with the impoverished, she wished that for her life, in her next life. I think she died in 1962 at a ripe old age. I was just doing some research on Eleanor Rose, Roosevelt. She had to hide the woman that she loved for her entire life. She met her pretty early when she found out her husband was cheating on her, that she found this companion that she fell in love with, and she hid the relationship her entire life because being homosexual was not accepted back then, right? And especially if you were the first lady, it was definitely, right? Not, it would have been devastating to Franklin Roosevelt's career for sure. Um, Christina always Onassis. Yes, that's right. Thank you, Andrew. That's uh, oh, I wasn't getting you wrong in that, but yeah, the stories. I love the stories. She helped free black slaves with the. Oh my goodness! Yes, that's a good one, Tammy. I heard lots of those stories at the Underground Railroad, but I never made note of the names. There was one gentleman who was, there's a name for them, um, Appalachianist. Oh, I'm pronouncing it wrong, but his name comes up every once in a while. I knew about him, but I didn't know about Harry Tubman. Harriet Tubman. But yeah, good one. She came through Michigan too. That was one of the states in the U.S. she used on her route to get people into Canada. Yeah, incredible. We don't have a lot. Like we have a lot of East Indian and a lot of people from like Sudan and stuff here. Um, but I don't know why they didn't cross the border more here in Manitoba, especially when we have never really been high in that prejudice, right? It was because we all depended on each other for survival. So we really didn't care about what color somebody's skin was, right? And and yet we treated the indigenous not very good, and the indigenous were the first Manitobans, which is kind of crazy to even think about, right? But I put her on a abolitionist. Thank you, Andrew. Abolitionist. Yeah. Never said I was good on pronunciation, right? I'm getting better. I'm a better speller than I used to, but I sure do make a lot of mistakes that Google corrects and Grammarly corrects all the time. And I'm always like, even today I was in, you have to Google something that sounds like it, and then it'll correct it for you when I'm looking to spell things properly, right? Really? Abolitionist. That's beautiful, Andrew. You have a very curious family history, Andrew. I have the book you sent me, Jalna, and you said this was part of your family too. Did you not say that, Andrew, that you are related to the characters in this book, in this family, in this book? I always keep it up here. I keep my favorite books right behind me there, and it gets that special. It doesn't get to go in the bookcase. It gets to go on top of the bookcase. But yeah, super interesting. But yeah, you blow me away sometimes with the facts in your family history. And you throw me for a loop every once in a while, because soon as I think I got you down pegged, you throw another one at me that just blows what I imagine you to be like, right? Because these things are passed down from one generation to a next, even if it's not, money, or if it's not in the prestige of a career or something. You have your looks, the way you talk, the way you pronounce, maybe the calligraphy, right? Is that passed down from your lineage? You have some interesting characters. Oh, Tammy says, I lived back in those times. I would be one of them, an abolitionist. Would I be an abolitionist? I think I probably would have helped in the nurses' stations, probably as a cook or something. I would help to cook food and make sure the patients were all eating properly. I would probably be in the war myself in some capacity, right? I'm not sure. I'd never be the person. I would be like, how the Hutterites here and Mennonites here in Canada, that they don't go to war, but they take care of the families left behind. That's probably what I would be doing, right? In some capacity, whether I was growing vegetables or doing some kind of medical aspect and caregiving for the families, or raising money in that way. War, I could never, right? And it's my generation, women did not get drafted. And in fact, I remembered when the the recruits would come to the high school during the senior years and talk to the boys about joining the armed forces. And I remembered that, and I wished that that was something I could do. I just wanted to get away from home. I was just looking for options of getting out of the house at that time. But after I was married to my husband, I really got to appreciate the military life, the way they took care of each other, that even if you weren't blood, you were family. And that's the way the army wanted you to consider it, because, your life depended on the person that was sitting or standing next to you, right? And also, that person standing next to you had wife and children at home, and to be a close knit family like that. And I really felt welcomed in that community, right? And it was really hard for me because, there came a point closer to the end of my marriage where I didn't have any civilian friends anymore, because I had immersed myself so much in the relationships within the military that that was my life. But when my marriage fell apart, right, I couldn't, in good faith, stay in that community. I mean, I was still in the dating age, I was still looking for husband number two, and I couldn't be in there, right? I had built up beautiful relationships, and it wasn't fair to my husband, and it wasn't fair to his friends, who would have to hold the guilt and shame in doing that to their friend, right? Which was my husband. So I had to build new relationships right from the ground up. And I think that was the beginning of me becoming a little bit. I was never standoffish. I'm a very social person, right? But to be somebody who just lived their life on their own without that need of having a partner, or having lots of friends, of being surrounded by lots of people and stuff, and in spending that time by myself, I come to appreciate that it was the only time in my entire life that I actually kind of got to be, you know, just on my own, right? I'd always been surrounded by people my entire life. And I didn't, maybe when I was younger, I felt that I needed it. I thought maybe my life wasn't worth living if I didn't have people to serve, or be surrounded with people who needed me and liked me and wanted me around. But it turned out that that wasn't the case. I was perfectly good on my own. And it wasn't in a way that, I was afraid in any way, because I always had those social jobs. But those jobs that I had made it so I had social position all week long during my work week. And then on my days off, it would be, whew, right? 2 days all for myself, and it would be beautiful. I loved it, right? So, but then again, it's in the moment, and if the right opportunity and the right man ever came across my path, it would have been a different story. But in the moment that you're in, you make your decisions and you ride those waves. And if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now, right? I wouldn't have been able to resolve a lot of those issues that you guys know, I believe, that would have been just passed on to the next generation, right? It would have been. And so I'm grateful for the way that, well, it'd be a lot better, but, right? It could always be better, but it's the opportunities, right? It is in putting in the work and making that movement and making good choices for yourself, being a good parent to yourself. And that was something, right, that I had to learn to do, to take care of myself. Because, like I said, I was around people and I allowed people to take care of me. And in my little drummer girl, I took care of them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it does make you dependent, right? That all your needs are taken care of. but you have to meet these other needs. That word, have to meet these other needs. And it's nice now that I can do those kindnesses, right? That I don't have to do those kindnesses, but I want to do those kindnesses. I want to do that job. I don't have to do that job, right? These are choices that I get to make. And that was something I couldn't appreciate because I didn't know that life my entire life. So I'm good. I'm good at what I'm doing because I don't think there's a lot of people who'd be interested in doing and applying themselves, right? And I could be applying myself a whole lot better than I am. But because I want to enjoy my life, I don't want to overwhelm my life, if that makes any sense. Oh my goodness, Florence Nightingale. That's another one. Was remarkable. I'm reminded also of Clara Barton, who got the Red Cross started in America. Oh my goodness. Now, was the Red Cross here in America first? Is it an American organization? I guess when I do my research, I'll find out. Um, wow, my list is getting big here. Interesting and curious people. I'd like to have some names there that aren't truly well known. So that's really good, right? But, there are people out there, that have really made a big difference and changed the world forever. And, I am a believer you got to make a mess to clean a mess. And it's unfortunate sometimes because it only got to that point where we've got a clean house is because we were on the couch with the remote control because we didn't want to make people uncomfortable. We didn't want to stir the pot. We didn't want to get involved. We didn't want to make those choices, right? But because we didn't do any of that stuff, we got ourselves to the point where something has to be done, right? And we need catalysts to get that ball rolling. And sometimes it's swift and quick, and it's done, right? And sometimes it's just a slow process where that change comes in a manner that we grow into it, right? That we don't have a choice but to accept the way it was. Good example of that is with Google. I'm going to use that as an example because over COVID, there weren't too many baby boomers online, right? Not too many of us people of our age were online. Nobody was FaceTiming or doing Zoom calls. They weren't doing any of that. But when COVID hit, right, people's kids were on the other side of the country. They were worried, right? They never got to see the grandkids because we were shut down. We were shut down pretty harshly, weren't we, for a couple of years? We slowly moved out of it, but harshly for a pretty couple of years. It shut us down. And the baby boomers didn't have any choice but to learn. That's a good catalyst. That's a good story. I'm going to tell that one, right? Because that changed everything, because that made it so everybody was using AI to some extent, right? That even the phones changed, and to pull up your phone and have all this stuff available at our fingertips. You know how curious we are, right? How much we kind of um, that curiosity killed the cat, that we start pushing buttons and stuff, even in just making mistakes, that we're pushing buttons. And it's interesting, like even for me, like I have so many apps on my phone, and I use them all because Google cleans them out if I don't use them, right? Sorry, I just curiosity killed the cat. My sister just messaged me. My sister's birthday this week, and her boyfriend for her birthday rented a cottage for a few days with a hot tub and rented a boat so they could go fishing and stuff. And they're doing a really romantic weekend, or week, because she said she's leaving on Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. So she'll be gone for almost a week. Next month, I am going for a few days on a big, it's a cancer care concert weekend, like a festival, right? And this gentleman puts it on at his farm every year. He's been doing it for over 20 years now. And 20 years? Trying to think, 13 years maybe he's been doing it. It's to raise money for cancer. And every year I've wanted to go, right? But I couldn't leave my cat here because my air conditioner, especially on the humid days, the air conditioning will stop once that water level hits the tipping point, which is like 10 hours maximum, right? And then it has to be changed or it shuts off. And on those really hot days, I can't leave my cat in my apartment, in those really high temperatures. It wasn't fair. So I always had to back out of these trips. Now, you guys know my cat passed away this year, and I told him no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm coming this year, and it's a big pig roast. They have 15 bands, mostly. I like the old rock and roll. I like the old stuff. I'm not a big fan of the heavy metal, the real loud music, but I love camping. So we're going to go camping. I'm going to go out there the night before because my brother in law's going to take a lot of gear out there and set up the tents and stuff. So it's all ready. So I'm going to go also, and, and, uh, and I'll just stay an extra day. I'll just say I'm going to babysit the tents and stuff, right? And, uh, and I'll get an extra day camping out of the trip. But the big pig roast. Now I'm pretty sure people will bring dishes too, like it'll be a potluck too. So I might make some cinnamon buns or cookies or something, for everybody. But it's going to be a lot of fun. It's something that I've wanted to do for a very, very long time, and this is the first time that I'm able to get out. And if should ever anything should ever happen with my September, at least I can say that, right, that I adapted, I conquered, I rode the waves. And I'll make a video, you guys, right, of that that camping weekend. It's going to be lots of fun. You guys can see my new tent that my sister got me for Christmas. It'll be the first time that I've tried it out, so that'll be fun. Uh oh, after the flood. Happy birthday to your sister, Cindy. I'm sending her good cheers for her birthday. Oh, that's nice of you. Nice of you, Tammy. Yeah, all my sister's birthdays are in the summertime, and I was a fall baby, right? My birthday is just a couple of weeks after Andrew's birthday. I think Andrew's a couple of couple of weeks younger than I am. Yeah, we're the same age, but he's a couple of weeks younger than I am. But uh, yeah, it's gonna be lots of fun. And my brother-in-law has a band, so he's gonna be singing. He's gonna be singing too. So it'll be nice to represent my brother. and hang out with him. He's a super great guy. My sister Alice really hooked on to a good one. They're a really good couple together too. Yeah, really happy for them too. Yeah. They're not married yet, but we push it on them every once in a while, but not too heavy. Okay, you guys, it's after 9 o'clock. That's my live show for this week. We kept it kind of light. I appreciate my Sunday shows because from the topics that I'm saying, I'm collecting names for my topic of catalysts for next week. So, guys know that I'm going into these topics that are pretty heavy sometimes. And so I really appreciate that when you guys come in on Sunday nights that we can all hang out. Yeah, I really appreciate it. No, I really appreciate all the thumbs up too that you guys give me. You guys, that's it for tonight. If you want to come and hang out with me and Tammy and Eugene tomorrow night, Kathy might show up. No expectations, but you guys, if you want to hang out with us, you're more than welcome to. Just be prepared, right? It's going to be something deep. I try and keep it light, but that's the way it goes sometimes. I hope everybody has a great week, and I guess we'll see you on Sunday. Shoot me an email, Andrew, if you hear back about what's going on with your knees. Right, you get your date for your operation, and Tammy, I hope your headache is not there when you get up in the morning. Okay, you guys, have a great day.